Hello. In this video, we're going to look at how we can combine multiple materials in a scene together and reduce draw calls with material merging in InstaLOD. Let's dive in. Material merging is the process of taking multiple materials and textures in a scene and merging them together into a single material. The different material parameters of the original materials get baked into according textures so that the final result looks identical to the input model. Material merging is best done after polygon reduction, as other processes such as remeshing can generate new materials and textures, which could ideally be encompassed into the texture atlas. Material merging is used to reduce draw calls and texture memory overhead. Instead of needing 9 draw calls and 35 textures, we can reduce this to 1 draw call and 5 textures, which makes rendering the object much lighter without having to reduce the polygon count. All right, so here we are in InstaLOD Studio, and you can see that I have this pretty large scene here of this city block. And so you'll notice there's a lot of objects in here. We've got some barriers, we've got different segments of the street, we've got different buildings here. There's a lot going on. We've got these crates and, a dumpster and stuff like that. And all of these, as you'll notice, have different materials and textures and UV layouts. So we actually have about 98 different objects here in this scene. As you can see, it's a pretty large hierarchy. And also, if I go over to the material editor, you can see we have a bunch of materials. We have about over 40 materials here in the scene as well. And so what I need to do is I need to optimize this scene because we have 212 draw calls. That's a lot of draw calls, which makes this area, this scene, very heavy for rendering in real time. So let's say, for example, that from a polygon standpoint, these objects are pretty well optimized. But we really need to reduce the amount of materials and draw calls for the scene to make this performant in real time. So let's go ahead and do that. And to do that, we're going to be using material merging in InstaLOD. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my mesh operation settings and choose material merge as the mesh operation that I'm going to do. And what this is going to do is it's going to take all these UVs and all these objects and it's going to repack them into a single texture atlas. It's going to combine the materials together and also preserve as much of the texture quality as possible while lowering that material count, in this case to 1. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and adjust some settings here. I'm going to change the gutter size in pixels to 15. That's going to add more space around each of the UV shells when it does the repacking. And this helps prevent MIP map bleeding. I'm also going to go to the shell rotation and I'm going to set this to allow only 90-degree rotations. And the reason why I'm doing that is because, just specifically for this scene, because of this brick texture. If we were to rotate the UV shells at an arbitrary angle, what's going to happen is these lines going across the pixel grid, they're not going to match up with that pixel grid. We're going to get this aliasing stair-stepping effect. So only rotating the shells by 90 degrees ensures we get nice, crisp looking brick textures. So let's go ahead and go over to the texture output settings. And so what InstaLOD is going to do is it's going to bake new textures for us. It's going to, if we say, for example, had in our materials some roughness values in the shader or some metalness values in the shader, it can also bake those into texture maps for us. And in this case, we're going to be baking those new maps with a particular new resolution. And so here we can set the resolution of that baking process. And so, I can bake anything from 2K all the way up to 32K if I want to. In this case, we'll probably stick to somewhere around 2K. Now, you might be wondering, okay, this is a giant scene. How much resolution do we really need to keep all these objects looking really nice? Maybe something like 4K or 8K. But really, I'm going to show you how we can do that with a 2K texture map for all of these different objects. So let's go ahead and start this process. And I'll go ahead and hit start here. And so again, InstaLOD's going to repack all the different objects here, all the different UVs into a single texture atlas. And as you can see, it's already done and we've got fantastic results. We can see every single brick here. We can still see the cracks in the street, all the details in the crates and in the sofa and the cars and stuff like that. And this is all on one texture tile, as you can see here, which is pretty amazing. Now, how are we able to do this? Well, there's two features that I want to bring up here. One of them has to do with the baking process, and that is the super sampling process. And what this does is this actually bakes our initial bake at 2 times, 4 times, 8 times, or more the resolution that we want as a result. So, in other words, what this means is because we had this set to times 2, InstaLOD actually baked a 4K texture map behind the scenes and then sampled it down to 2K. So we got a majority of the detail from a 4K texture bake just sampled down into a lighter, more lightweight 2K resolution map as a result. So that's great. That's how we're able to get all these details. But in addition, let me show you something else here. You'll notice we get a little outline here of all the UV shells that we have selected in the scene on the texture. And if I go ahead and select these different street meshes, you'll notice that we still have the same selection here. And that is because what InstaLOD automatically did for us is it stacked duplicate shells on top of each other. You can see we have the stack duplicate shells option here. So instead of having multiple street tiles packed together, which lowers our textile density and gives us a worse resolution, you can actually see here we did the same thing for the buildings as well. It just stacked those shells on top of each other, giving us more space for our UV tile and making it so that we can get more texture resolution for the rest of the objects in the scene. So with the combination of super sampling and stacking duplicate shells, we can get this massive scene here on one texture tile. Now, the last thing we need to do, you'll notice we still have 98 draw calls, and that's because we still have all these objects as separate objects in the scene. We need to combine them together to get this down to one draw call. So I'm just going to go over to my mesh operation settings and choose the mesh toolkit, and I want to combine these objects together. So I'll just click combine and hit start, and I want to process the already processed scene. And now you can see that we have one object here. We have one material. If I filter this down to the mesh that I have selected here, one material, one mesh, resulting in one draw call. So as you can see, material merging makes it easy to reduce the amount of materials in the scene, even combining them all together into one texture atlas. And with the help of the mesh toolkit in InstaLOD, we can also combine the objects together to reduce draw calls. Thanks for watching this video on getting started with material merging with InstaLOD. Now, before we wrap up, I also wanted to mention that InstaLOD's Remesher, which is a great way to create real-time ready 3D assets with a single operation, also automatically combines objects and merges materials to create a texture atlas and reduces draw calls. Now, to learn more about the Remesher, check out our video linked in the description below. Now, if you'd like to learn more about InstaLOD's various mesh operations and workflows, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Here we have an ever-expanding library of videos covering the ins and outs of InstaLOD. And also, be sure to check out our community forum and Discord server, where you can ask questions, share your creations, and engage with members of the InstaLOD community. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, drop us a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. For the latest news about InstaLOD, please visit our website and follow us on Twitter. You can find all the links in the video description below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.